He asked an alien for a date. What she said changed his life forever. Ethan had never been the type of human to stand out. In the bustling city of Nova Haven, a sprawling metropolis orbiting a gas giant on the edge of the human colonies, humans were rare and often overlooked. Here, the sky was a swirl of neon lights and flying vehicles, and the streets below were a tapestry of alien species, some towering, some glowing, some with shapes that defied Ethan's imagination. Among all of them, humans looked small, fragile, and ordinary. Yet today, Ethan had a plan, or at least, he hoped it would be a plan. His friends had been teasing him for weeks about his fascination with the mysterious Varelian species, a race known across several star systems for their intelligence, elegance, and cold demeanor. The Varelians rarely interacted with humans, except in business or academic settings. Romance was practically unheard of. And yet, he had seen her. Lyra. She moved through the crowded market like she owned the place, though she clearly did not. Her skin shimmered faintly in the neon light, a subtle iridescence that hinted at her alien heritage. Her eyes were deep pools of amber, alert and calculating. Her long, elegant fingers brushed objects only briefly, as if she could understand their function with a single touch. Ethan had watched from a corner stall, heart racing, as she navigated the chaos with grace. He had never seen anyone move like that, not human, not alien. "Dude, you're staring," his friend Jax whispered, elbowing him. "Go talk to her, or you're going to be staring until the city collapses." Ethan swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. Talking to humans was hard enough. Talking to a Varelian seemed like attempting to negotiate with a black hole. And yet, something inside him said he had to try. Taking slow, deliberate steps toward her, the crowd seemed to part slightly, almost as if the universe itself was making room for him. He said, his voice shakier than he intended. Lyra turned her head slightly, and her eyes met his. For a moment, the world seemed to slow. She studied him, tilting her head as if measuring not just his appearance, but the energy he carried. Yes. Her voice was soft, but it carried authority. I was wondering, would you, maybe, like to go out sometime? Ethan's words tumbled over each other. For coffee, or a drink? Or, he stopped, flustered. Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly, though not in anger. She was analyzing, calculating, reading something about him that he could not understand. The crowd's noise seemed to fade. Then she smiled, a subtle smile, almost imperceptible, but enough to make Ethan's stomach flip. "Perhaps," she said, her voice calm and deliberate. "But you must understand, if you agree to this, your life may never be the same again." Ethan blinked. I'm okay with that? He was fairly certain he didn't know what he was agreeing to, but curiosity and adrenaline pushed him forward. Good. She turned and began walking, her long strides covering ground effortlessly. "Meet me at the Nova docks in 1 hour. Wear something comfortable. You'll need it." Ethan barely processed the instructions before she disappeared into the crowd, leaving him stunned, breathless, and terrified. An hour later, Ethan arrived at the Nova docks, where sleek starships hovered over the shimmering water of the orbital canals. He had seen ships like these before, but nothing close to what awaited him. One ship in particular gleamed with a subtle silver-blue glow. Its design was elegant, almost organic, with curves that made it seem alive. Lyra was waiting beside it, her gaze scanning the docks. When she saw him, her eyes softened just slightly, enough to reassure him, or perhaps to amuse herself at his obvious nervousness. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm, almost melodic. "I think so," Ethan said, unsure what he meant. Ready for what? A normal date? A simple conversation? He had no idea. She extended a hand. "Come aboard. I'll explain along the way." Ethan hesitated for a moment, then took her hand. The touch was unlike anything he had felt before, warm but with a subtle vibration, as if energy flowed beneath her skin. It sent a shiver up his spine. The interior of the ship was breathtaking. Light shifted and danced across the walls, responding to their movements. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star systems, orbital maps, and alien readouts that made Ethan's head spin. "Wow," he breathed. Lyra smiled faintly. You humans are easily impressed. I guess so, he muttered, blushing. She guided him to a small observation deck where the city below glimmered like a field of stars. The stars beyond were brighter here, unfiltered by atmosphere. Ethan felt a strange mixture of awe and fear. "Why did you agree to go out with me?" he asked, the words escaping before he could think better of it. Lyra tilted her head. "Curiosity. I have observed humans for centuries. You are unpredictable, and some of you have traits that even we, the Varelians, cannot fully calculate. That is intriguing," Ethan swallowed. "So, I'm like a science experiment?" "Not exactly," she said, her amber eyes glinting. "Think of it as a test. I want to see if your species can surprise me, if you are truly capable of things even we cannot imagine." Ethan laughed nervously. "That's kind of intimidating." "Good." She said it almost like a command, but it wasn't harsh. There was a hint of excitement there, too. As the ship lifted off the dock, gliding smoothly into orbit, Lyra began explaining some of the incredible places she wanted to show him. "There are worlds where your species is considered myth, planets where time flows differently, civilizations where thinking like a human could be dangerous or advantageous." Ethan listened, captivated, though most of it went over his head. Still, he was learning something essential. Humans were not expected here. And yet, somehow, he had been chosen, or allowed, to see it all. "Why me?" he asked, after a long silence, watching the alien constellations blur past the windows. "You have persistence, curiosity, a willingness to step forward when others would hesitate. That is rare." Her gaze met his, piercing yet approving. He felt a spark of pride. "I guess humans do have some good qualities after all." Lyra's smile widened slightly, and for the first time, she leaned back in a way that seemed almost human. "You may surprise me, Ethan, or you may frustrate me beyond measure. But either way, it will be enlightening." They flew past the glowing rings of the gas giant below, and Ethan felt an unexpected thrill. He realized he was not just on a date. He was on the edge of something much larger, something that could change his life forever. Then, without warning, the ship's sensors beeped, alerting her to nearby activity. Her calm demeanor did not falter. "We are not alone," she said simply, scanning the readings. Ethan's heart jumped. "Not alone? Who? What is it?" "Nothing to fear," she replied, almost smiling. "But it is unusual. You humans often think the universe is safe. It is not. Not entirely." Ethan nodded, trying to absorb her words. This was not what he expected when he asked a girl out. And yet, he realized he had never been more alive. The rest of the journey passed in a blur of stars, explanations, and awe-inspiring views. Ethan watched Lyra operate her ship with precision and grace, feeling both admiration and the weight of the unknown. He began to understand the true meaning of her warning. This date would not be ordinary. This experience would stretch him in ways he could not yet comprehend. As they approached the first of her destinations, a planet bathed in swirling green and violet clouds, with cities that seemed carved from crystal, Lyra turned to him once more. "Remember what I said," she said softly. "If you choose to continue, your life will change. There is no turning back." Ethan felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He nodded. I want to see it all. I want to try." Lyra's eyes softened in a way that almost looked like approval. "Very well. Then hold on tight. The real adventure begins now." The ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the clouds parting to reveal alien landscapes that defied description. Towering crystal structures reflected the light of two suns, while beings of various shapes moved gracefully across the ground. Ethan felt small, fragile, yet entirely alive. For the first time in his life, he realized that humans might not be the strongest or the most advanced, but maybe, just maybe, they had a spark that even the most intelligent alien could not ignore. As the ship touched down, Ethan took a deep breath. He had no idea what lay ahead. But one thing was certain: his life would never be the same. The planet beneath them stretched like a living jewel, Its skies shimmered with swirling colors, green, violet, and hints of gold, that reflected across the crystal towers scattered across its surface. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had seen images of alien worlds before, but nothing in his life had prepared him for this. It was more than beautiful. It was overwhelming, almost impossible to believe. Lyra guided him off the ship with a calm, precise grace. Her long legs moved effortlessly over the smooth ground, and Ethan found himself struggling to keep up. Every step he took, he felt the weight of being human, slower, clumsier, smaller. But still, he was here, and she had brought him. That alone made his chest swell with pride. "Watch your step," Lyra said, noticing his hesitation. "Some surfaces react to pressure. They are harmless, but they can be surprising." Ethan glanced at the ground, nervously. Tiny, translucent plants reacted to his weight, folding and curling as if they were breathing. The effect was mesmerizing. "This is incredible," he whispered. Lyra glanced at him, her amber eyes unreadable. "Incredible or dangerous?" she asked. Ethan frowned. She was testing him again. He had learned quickly that Varelians often measured worth through observation. "I think incredible," he replied, choosing his words carefully. Lyra nodded slightly. "Good answer. You humans sometimes surprise us." They walked through the city, and Ethan noticed that the Varelians moved differently than the humans he knew. Everything about them was precise. The way they carried themselves, how their eyes calculated angles and distances, even how they spoke. But Ethan noticed something else. Despite their elegance, they lacked the human instinct to improvise, the ability to think outside rigid structures. "That is why some humans are dangerous," Lyra said suddenly, as if reading his thoughts. "Your unpredictability can be a strength and a weakness. We do not always know what to make of it." Ethan's ears perked up. "So, you're saying I could be a threat?" "In some situations, yes," she said, her voice calm. "But in others, you could achieve things we could never plan for. That is why I brought you here." Ethan swallowed. He felt a mix of fear and excitement. Humans were fragile in comparison to most alien species, yet here he was, being treated as potentially exceptional. Lyra led him to a transportation hub where sleek vehicles hovered silently above the ground. They were not ships like hers. They were smaller, faster, and designed for navigating the alien cities. Ethan hesitated as she gestured for him to step into one. "Don't worry," she said. "I will guide you, but you must act quickly." Humans tend to hesitate too long. The vehicle lifted smoothly. Ethan gripped the controls instinctively, surprised to find that, while he didn't understand most of the functions, his human reflexes allowed him to respond to immediate threats. Lyra's voice guided him through turns and maneuvers, but she remained calm, almost amused, as he adapted. "You are fast to learn," she observed, "but do not grow arrogant. Humans often underestimate the complexity of our systems." "I'm trying not to," he said, heart pounding. They glided through the city streets, weaving between towering crystalline structures. Ethan noticed that the inhabitants, many of whom were alien species, seemed to pay no attention to them. Yet he could feel their eyes on him. Humans were still rare here. Every glance he received reminded him that he was an anomaly, a small, fragile creature, stepping into worlds built for beings far stronger, far more advanced. After what felt like hours, Lyra finally guided him to a landing area near the edge of the city. Before them lay an open expanse, forests of crystalline trees, rivers that shimmered with light, and mountains that seemed to float above the ground. Ethan felt as if he had stepped into a dream. "Here," Lyra said, "this is one of the places humans rarely see. Few of our kind allow you here. I am curious to see how you will react." Ethan stepped forward cautiously, touching one of the crystal trees. It hummed under his fingers, vibrating gently. He felt a surge of awe mixed with fear. The world was alive in a way humans had never imagined. "You are calm," Lyra observed. "Many humans would panic. You adapt." "I guess humans are used to challenges," Ethan said, surprising himself with his confidence. "We have to be. Otherwise, we don't survive." Lyra's eyes glinted. "Perhaps that is why you are here. Humans survive where others would fail. Sometimes you thrive where we would hesitate. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped sharply, breaking the quiet. Lyra's calm demeanor did not falter. She accessed the readings with her hand, flicking through data at a speed Ethan could barely follow. Unusual activity, she said. Something large, fast, and intelligent is approaching. We must leave immediately. Ethan's heart raced. Something dangerous? Something dangerous? Not necessarily, she said, but her tone was serious. But it is unpredictable. It is testing us. Watch and learn. Before he could respond, she guided him back to the ship. As they lifted off, Ethan caught a glimpse of a massive object in space, a rogue probe, sleek and metallic, moving with terrifying speed. Its sensors scanned the planet with precise mechanical movements. Why is it here? Ethan asked, gripping the console. Some of our observations are private, Lyra replied, but this is a test of the planet's defenses. And perhaps a test of you. Ethan blinked. A test of me? You humans have traits the universe does not expect, Lyra said, her voice calm but sharp. Instinct, improvisation, courage. The probe may require these traits to survive. Ethan felt fear rise in his chest, but beneath it, a spark of determination. Humans were not designed for interstellar challenges, yet here he was, thrust into a situation no other human had faced. And somehow, he felt ready. Lyra maneuvered the ship through the planet's atmosphere, guiding Ethan to observe her techniques. She demonstrated evasive maneuvers, predictive calculations, and energy shielding. Ethan absorbed it all, but when the rogue probe launched an unexpected attack, it was his human instincts that saved them. "Turn sharply now," he shouted, reacting before Lyra could. His hands moved with speed and intuition she could not anticipate, guiding the ship away from the probe's energy blast. Lyra's amber eyes widened. "Interesting," she murmured. "You react differently than we would. You adapt instinctively. This is human." Ethan's pulse was racing. "We survive by thinking fast," he said, surprising even himself. "We don't always follow rules. We improvise." Lyra studied him closely, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Perhaps your species is underestimated for a reason." "I am beginning to see why." The probe continued to track them, relentless and intelligent. Lyra guided the ship toward a narrow canyon, using the terrain to their advantage. Ethan's mind raced. He noticed patterns in the probe's movement that the Varelian systems did not flag. "If we lead it here, we can trap it," he suggested, pointing to the canyon's edges. Lyra tilted her head, clearly impressed. "Go on," Ethan calculated rapidly. Using his understanding of unpredictability, he directed the ship in sudden, erratic movements. The probe adjusted, but its programming could not account for the chaos. It became caught between canyon walls, unable to maneuver quickly enough. Lyra let out a quiet whistle. "Clever. You think in ways even our systems cannot. You are remarkable." Ethan grinned, adrenaline coursing through him. For the first time, he felt truly human power, small, fragile, underestimated, yet capable of outthinking a machine far beyond his species' technology. Once the probe was neutralized, Lyra guided him back to the planet's surface. Ethan's hands shook, both from fear and exhilaration. "You humans," Lyra said softly, her voice almost unreadable. "You are unpredictable. You survive where others fail, and yet you often do not realize it yourselves." Ethan laughed, exhausted but thrilled. "Guess we're full of surprises." "Indeed," Lyra replied, "and you have only begun to show them. If you continue, you will see more. You will face challenges that even I cannot predict. But I think you are ready." Ethan looked at her, awe and respect mingling with something deeper. Admiration, curiosity, and perhaps something like hope. "Ready for what?" he asked. Lyra's smile was faint, but it carried weight, ready to see what humans are truly capable of, and to understand why the universe should never underestimate your kind. The sun, or suns, set behind the floating mountains, casting brilliant colors across the crystal forests. Ethan realized for the first time that his life had changed forever. Humans might be small in the eyes of the galaxy, but he had seen a spark within himself that could rival the stars. And Lyra, well, she had only just begun to see it too. Ethan's heart still raced as the last light of the alien suns faded behind the floating mountains. The planet beneath them was alive with shimmering forests, rivers of liquid light, and crystalline towers that glowed faintly in the darkness. He had thought the day could not get any more extraordinary, but he was about to find out how wrong he was. Lyra's ship hovered silently above the surface. Her amber eyes scanned the planet's horizon, alert and sharp. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but firm, "the next place I want to show you is not. It is a planet under threat, and your species may play a role in saving it." Ethan blinked. "Saving it? How? How could I?" "You will see," Lyra said, interrupting him. "Humans think small, but you often act big. That is why I brought you here." He swallowed hard, a knot of fear and excitement forming in his chest. Humans were fragile. He knew that. But Lyra's words, they hinted at something more, something that he could never have imagined, that being human, despite all limitations, could actually matter on a galactic scale. The journey to the next planet took hours, or perhaps days. Time moved differently here. Ethan struggled to track it. Lyra, calm and composed, navigated the starship through asteroid fields, gravity wells, and cosmic storms with ease. The ship hummed, alive with energy, responding to every shift and motion. Finally, they approached their destination. The planet below was breathtaking and terrifying at the same time. Massive storms swirled across its surface, lighting up the skies with arcs of violent energy. Towering cities sprawled along the continents, their architecture sleek and alien. But Ethan noticed something alarming. The cities were under attack. Massive rogue AI probes, similar to the one they had evaded earlier, moved through the atmosphere with deadly precision. Lyra's voice cut through the cockpit. These probes were unleashed to test defenses. The planet's inhabitants are highly advanced, but their systems cannot anticipate the chaos. Humans, however, often think in unpredictable ways. That is where you come in. Ethan's stomach flipped. Me? I'm just one guy. Lyra's amber eyes locked on him. You are human. That is enough. They descended into the upper atmosphere. Ethan's hands shook as he observed the probe's movements, each one calculated with perfect logic, anticipating standard defenses and countermeasures. Lyra could predict and react faster than any human, but Ethan noticed something the Varelian systems did not. The probes relied on patterns. "They're predictable," Ethan muttered. Not like us humans." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Ethan pointed at the holographic map floating between them. "They anticipate standard maneuvers. If we do something irregular, something they don't expect, we could trick them." Lyra leaned closer, intrigued. "Go on." Humans improvise. We react in the moment. We take risks other species avoid. If we can force them into unpredictable positions, maybe we can disable or trap them without destroying the planet's systems. Lyra studied him silently for a long moment. Then, for the first time, she smiled, a rare, subtle expression. "Interesting. Proceed." Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. He was about to put human ingenuity to the test in a situation that could determine the survival of an entire civilization. The battle began in earnest. Ethan guided the ship through the chaotic skies, dodging energy blasts from the probes. His mind raced, searching for patterns, weak points, and opportunities. Lyra provided guidance, but she allowed him to take the lead. "Left. Hard," she shouted as a probe closed in. Ethan reacted instinctively, banking the ship sharply. He noticed the probe hesitated, unsure of how to respond. That hesitation was all he needed. "Now, split," he called, directing the ship through a canyon that twisted like a serpent. The probe followed, but it was too precise, too rigid. It collided with the canyon walls, momentarily stunned. Lyra's eyes widened. "Remarkable. You think like a human." Ethan grinned despite the danger. "It's what we do. We survive by thinking fast, by not following the rules." Another probe approached from the opposite side, its sensors locking onto them. Ethan scanned quickly, then made a sudden decision. "We'll use the energy currents from the storms. Draw it in, then cut off its escape." Lyra blinked, impressed, bold. Unorthodox, but it may work. He guided the ship through the storm, leveraging lightning arcs and magnetic turbulence to confuse the probe's targeting system. For a tense moment, it seemed the probe would escape. But Ethan's instinctive maneuvering trapped it in the storm's heart. The energy overloaded its circuits, and the probe spiraled out of control, crashing harmlessly into a mountain valley. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You do not realize what you have done. The planet's main defense grid would have required decades to plan a solution like this, and you achieved it instinctively." Ethan felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. I just did what felt right. That is what I mean, Lyra said softly. Humans act in ways other species cannot anticipate. You are adaptable, creative, courageous. You may be the key to survival in situations even we cannot predict. Ethan's chest swelled. He had never felt so significant. Not for himself, but for the role humans could play in the wider universe. This was not just heroism. It was the essence of being human. The battle was far from over. More probes approached, but Ethan and Lyra worked together seamlessly. She guided, advised, and occasionally challenged him, while he applied human intuition, improvisation, and risk-taking to outmaneuver threats. Slowly, the skies cleared as each probe was neutralized or driven away. By the time the last probe fell, Ethan was exhausted, sweat beading his forehead. Despite the cool atmosphere, Lyra turned to him, her amber eyes softening. "You have exceeded my expectations," she said. "I thought humans were fragile, reckless, and emotional. I was wrong. You are powerful in ways even we cannot calculate." Ethan laughed, a mix of relief and exhilaration. "Guess humans aren't so bad after all. You are more than not bad," Lyra said, almost tenderly. "You are exceptional." For a long moment, they floated in silence, observing the planet below. Ethan felt a profound shift inside him. He had always thought humans were small, insignificant, fragile, but here, amidst alien stars, hostile probes, and unimaginable technology, he realized humans were more than underestimated. They were vital, capable, and dangerous in ways the galaxy had not accounted for. Lyra's voice broke the quiet. "Ethan, there is more to see, more challenges. And I want to see how far you can go." He turned to her, awe and gratitude in his eyes. I'll do my best." "No," she corrected him gently. "I want to see what you are truly capable of. Not your best, but what only a human can do." Ethan swallowed. This was no longer about a simple date. It was about proving the worth of his species in a universe that often dismissed humans as weak. And for the first time, he felt proud to be human. They returned to the city above, landing near the crystal towers. Once more, citizens of the planet watched silently, amazed at what they had just witnessed. Ethan stepped out of the ship, breathing heavily, still processing the chaos and triumph. Lyra followed, quiet and elegant, her presence commanding and reassuring all at once. "You have saved more than a planet today," she said softly. "You have reminded me, and perhaps the galaxy, that humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan smiled, feeling a mix of pride, relief, and something he had not expected: connection. Lyra, this alien woman, saw him not as small, fragile, or weak, but as human, capable, and vital. He realized then that everything had changed, not just his life, but the way he viewed his own species. Humans were underestimated, but underestimated humans could survive, improvise, and thrive in ways others could never imagine. Lyra's hand brushed his lightly as she turned to leave. "Tomorrow we will continue. There are more worlds to visit, more lessons to teach, more challenges to face. Are you ready?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, I'm ready." Her smile, rare and subtle, was the only acknowledgement he needed. In that moment, he understood something vital. Being human was not a limitation. It was a strength. And the galaxy was about to learn it, one adventure at a time. As they looked out over the glowing city, Ethan felt a thrill he had never known. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. And he, a simple human, had already begun to leave his mark. The stars stretched endlessly around them as Lyra guided the ship away from the planet they had just saved. Ethan sat silently, his hands still gripping the console, heart pounding from the adrenaline of the day's events. For the first time in his life, he truly felt human, small in size, but enormous in impact. Lyra's amber eyes caught his from across the cockpit. "You are thinking," she said quietly. "Humans always think, even when others act purely on calculation. Why do you look so reflective?" Ethan chuckled nervously. "I'm just trying to process everything. I never thought humans could actually matter like this. Not to the galaxy, not to anyone." Lyra's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "You underestimate yourselves. Humans are fragile, yes, and often reckless. But you survive. You adapt. You improvise. You take risks others will not. That is why your species has survived, and why I brought you here." Ethan leaned back, staring out the window at the swirling stars. I didn't expect to make a difference. I didn't expect to save a planet or impress a Virelian." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Do you realize what you have done today? You used instinct, courage, and creativity. You acted in ways we could never predict. You have reminded me, and perhaps the galaxy, that humans are not weak. They are remarkable." Ethan blinked. Me? Remarkable? "Yes," Lyra said simply. "You are an example of what humans can do. And I want to see more. If you continue with me, you will face challenges that others would avoid. Dangers that most species could not survive. And yet, I believe you can succeed." Ethan felt a rush of pride mixed with fear. The thought of continuing this journey both terrified and thrilled him. I want to try," he said finally. "I want to see what humans can really do." Lyra's faint smile widened slightly, and for a moment, she seemed almost human. "Very well. Then, prepare yourself. The universe does not wait, and neither do the challenges you will face." The next planet they visited was unlike anything Ethan had seen. Massive structures floated in midair, suspended by forces he could barely comprehend. Rivers of luminous liquid, carved paths through forests of crystalline trees, and strange creatures with wings of light soared above the ground. "This is where humans are rarely allowed," Lyra said, her voice calm but commanding. "Few of our kind would let you see this, and fewer still would involve you in what is about to happen." Ethan swallowed hard. "Involved how?" "You will see," Lyra said, guiding him toward a central city. "The inhabitants are aware of our arrival. They are cautious, but you may have an opportunity to demonstrate something unique, something only a human can do." Ethan felt his heart hammering. Humans were not expected here, and yet he was being given a chance to prove themselves on a cosmic scale. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. As they entered the city, alarms suddenly blared across the streets. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Rogue probes, smaller than the one on the previous planet, but faster and more numerous, had begun attacking the city. Energy beams streaked across the sky, and alien inhabitants scattered, trying to activate defenses. Lyra's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Ethan, this is your moment. Observe the probes and think like a human. Use what you learned." Ethan's mind raced. He scanned the movement patterns of the probes, just as he had before. They were fast, calculated, and relentless. But there was one flaw. Their programming assumed predictable defenses. Humans were unpredictable. Humans improvised. He acted instinctively. "Lyra, follow my lead." She hesitated, then nodded. Ethan directed the ship in sudden, erratic maneuvers, weaving between buildings and dodging energy blasts. The probes adjusted, but they could not anticipate the irregular human movements. One by one, they collided with obstacles, spun out of control, or were tricked into their own traps. Lyra watched silently, clearly impressed. "Remarkable. You think in ways we cannot anticipate. You act with courage and intuition. You are human." Ethan grinned, despite the danger. "That's what humans do. We survive by thinking differently. We take risks, improvise, and we never give up." Together, they neutralized the probes, saving the city and its inhabitants. The aliens, cautious moments before, now stared in awe at the small human who had outmaneuvered technology far beyond his comprehension. After the battle, Ethan stepped out of the ship onto the city's glowing streets. The inhabitants approached cautiously, observing him with a mixture of fear and respect. He realized that for the first time, humans were not seen as weak. They were seen as clever, resourceful, and potentially heroic. Lyra walked beside him, her presence commanding and reassuring all at once. Ethan, you have done more than save a city. You have shown what humans are capable of. The galaxy will take notice. If not now, then soon. Ethan laughed softly. I didn't know humans could do this, or that I could, but I feel like I finally understand something. We are small, maybe, but we matter. We can make a difference. Lyra's amber eyes met his. Exactly. And I brought you here to see it for yourself, to understand that your species is underestimated not because you are weak, but because others cannot calculate your potential. Ethan felt a swell of pride. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be human in a universe that doubted them at every turn. As the city recovered, Lyra led him back to the ship. They flew to a quiet observation point above the planet, where the stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Ethan leaned against the console, staring at the swirling nebulae and distant galaxies. Lyra, he began, hesitantly, I still don't understand. Why me? Why did you pick a human? And why me? Of all people. Lyra's eyes softened, and she finally allowed a full smile to form. Because you are human. And because I see something in you that even I cannot fully explain. Curiosity, courage, adaptability, and perhaps a spark that may one day change the universe. Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest. So, this is about more than a date? Lyra tilted her head, almost playfully. Yes, it is about discovering what humans are capable of. It is about showing you, yourself. I said yes to a date, but that was only the beginning. What you do, how you act, that is what will change your life. And, perhaps, the lives of many others. Ethan realized then that everything had shifted. The universe was no longer a distant, incomprehensible expanse. Humans could leave their mark. Humans could survive, and even thrive, where others could not. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching the stars. Ethan felt an unprecedented sense of connection to Lyra, to the universe, and to his own species. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not insignificant. They were clever, courageous, and unpredictable. And in the right moment, that made all the difference. Finally, Lyra spoke. Ethan, I have never met a human like you. You have proven your worth, not just to me, but to yourself. And that is the true lesson of this journey. Humans are underestimated, and that is their greatest strength. Ethan smiled, awe and gratitude mingling in his chest. I understand now. I finally understand. Humans aren't weak. We're capable of amazing things. Lyra reached out and lightly touched his hand. Yes, and I look forward to seeing what else you can do. With humans like you, the universe has only begun to realize its potential. The stars shimmered around them, vast and endless. Ethan felt a thrill unlike anything he had ever known. He had discovered something profound, not just about the universe, but about himself. Humans might be underestimated, but underestimated humans could accomplish the impossible. And in that moment, standing beside Lyra, Ethan knew one truth above all. His life had changed forever. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and wonder, but he was ready. Humans were ready, and together, he and Lyra would face challenges that no one, not aliens, not technology, not fate itself, could predict. For the first time, Ethan realized that being human was not a limitation. It was a gift, and the universe would never underestimate them again. As the ship soared toward the stars, Ethan's mind was filled with possibilities, worlds to explore, civilizations to save, and mysteries to unravel. But most importantly, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humans were extraordinary, and the adventure was just beginning.